Oh, I was, I was really getting into it, Dr. Dyas, and where's is Ebban there? I don't see Ebban. But Dr. Dyas, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, Denise, and thanks for having me.
No, it's great. All the way out there from LA.
I'm coming to you from my office here at the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz Performance at UCLA. Our main administrative offices are in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And
And
I'll be
you,
there next week, as you know, for this big event we're doing at the U.S. Department of Education with Herbie Hancock.
so you're the Vice President of Education and Curriculum Development there at the Institute. Dr. Dyas, tell us what do you do and what the Institute is all about? Give us a little background on that.
Well, the Institute is a nonprofit and probably one of the most famous nonprofit jazz education and outreach organizations in the world. We have several components. One is our college program here at UCLA, but we also sponsor International Jazz Day along with UNESCO, where we have over 1 billion participants in 193 countries around the world participating in jazz on April 30th, participating by presenting concerts and workshops and jam sessions and listening parties and video watching, because jazz represents some of our deeply held values like teamwork and unity with ethnic diversity and the vital importance of really listening to one another. And we also have an international jazz competition every year. We have our bebop to hip hop program. And what we're doing on Tuesday at the U.S. Department of Education is reflective of our National Performing Arts High School program, where we present what we call peer-to-peer informants, which is a performance and information. We travel all over the country with these amazing young high school students, where we have kids teaching kids that there's more to music than just rock and roll and hip hop, and they need to check out jazz. And if I tell them that, they don't hear me. But when these kids who are their same age, and always a very ethnically diverse group, and they're showing how they work together to make a greater whole, they listen to them.
You know, it's been good over the years to hear artists such as Herbie Hancock, Wynton Marsalis, and so many others who really working hard, like you said, to preserve the music and to promote it among young people. And that's why I'm glad that we have Ebban Dorsey with us today. She is a student at the Baltimore School of Arts and a jazz musician. How did that happen, Ebban?
Well, growing up, my family always kind of played music around the house. So, like, literally since I was born, I've been listening to all types of music. And specifically around 9 or 10 years old, that's when my school started introducing instruments to people. And so my mom took me to a sax music and dance camp, which was actually like a jazz camp with a lot of other stuff going on. And so I specifically got into jazz around 9 and 10, and I loved it.
What is it about jazz that interested you or attracted you?
Well, it took a while for it to interest me and attract me, but it was so much different. It was more different than the stuff that I was listening to on the radio. I mean, there's real instruments like in your face. I know in Baltimore and DC, there's live music scenes, and there have been for a long time. And so we would go to shows, and I'd see all these people are playing. Sometimes they're not reading music, and so that concept took a while to register in my head. Like, how are they doing this? Or how are they improvising? And so it just takes a lot more. And I could see the passion and the teamwork on the stage, and I wanted to take part in that, especially since my brother at the time was also learning. And so I found it as an opportunity for both of us to, do this together. And it was a journey, and we ended up loving doing it, especially together.
And your instrument is,
I played the alto saxophone.
which is we just watched you playing, right?
Yes, that was me.
Wow, it's amazing. And Dr. Dyas, how did you discover Ebban and how the other young people? You can tell us who they are that'll be performing in this program next week.
Well, Ebban is one of the best alto saxophonists for her age in the country. We sponsor these
Ooh.
12 performing arts high schools around the country, and I visit each of these schools 2 or 3 days a year, and I mentor the teachers and I work directly with the students. And while I'm at these schools, I have my eye on who are the very best. And what we do every Wednesday night, we have a Zoom forum with the 24 best performing arts high school jazz students. These are the jazz stars of tomorrow, like Ebban, and they meet each other. And every Wednesday night, they perform for each other. And I do some teaching, but it's mostly them networking and constructively criticizing each other and telling them what they're working on and what maybe others should be working on. It's a great thing. So because we're doing this in Washington, D.C., we picked our two best from the Baltimore School for the Arts and the two best from the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C. And our wonderful drummer is from the Jackson Reed High School in Washington, D.C. And that's the quintet right there.
So the exciting news that I also discovered for next week, Ebban and Dr. Dyas, is that you will be playing with Herbie Hancock.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
It took a while to register that was happening, but now that it's coming up, I'm like starting to be like, okay, this is actually happening. I'm really excited to play with them, to meet them, and just the experience overall. I know it's going to be great and it's going to be fun, so I'm looking forward to it.
Dr. Dyas, one of our writers, Brenda Seiler, who, I think is doing a story on this as well, and I'm reading comments in the chat here, and she talked about, a young lady in jazz, how exciting that is, and you talked about diversity, but gender diversity is an interesting sort of way that this is playing out as well, to get young ladies who are interested in jazz. How is that working?
Well, jazz is the great equalizer, and jazz started a little over 100 years ago. I mean, the very first jazz recording was in 1917, and it was invented by the African American community and evolved through the African American experience. And today, jazz is completely inclusive. It's played by all ethnicities and backgrounds and religions and genders all over the world. In fact, all 7 continents. I mean, even in the science station in Antarctica, they're listening to jazz. Even in outer space, at the space station, they're listening to Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock. So it's not only the world's music. It started out as America's music. It's now not only the world's music, but maybe the whole cosmos as well.
Exactly. And I mean, where do you want your jazz performance, your musicianship? Where do you want that to take you? What are your hopes and dreams?
I definitely want to travel the world with my music, playing with people that I love to play with. I love to continue playing with my brother, composing albums. I want to do everything. So I'd like to see.
I know. We have to say this. I know Herbie Hancock is one of your favorite jazz musicians, but who else do you admire in the world of jazz?
I could go on forever about people that I look up to. I'll say a couple. Definitely Dante Winslow and Mashika Winslow, both BSA alumni and like amazing musicians. Kamasi Washington, Kenny Garrett, Thundercat, Terrace Martin, Ornette Coleman very recently. So I check out a wide range of musicians, but I'm especially thankful for the East Coast family and the West Coast family who've taken musicians like me under their wing and have really been supporting us since the beginning.
And I'm going to have to ask you this too, because when you talked about the music that you used to listen to, and a lot of young people, we just assume they're into hip hop and rap and all that. But clearly, Dr. Dyas, that is not always the case. But what do your friends say about you when they see you, walking down the street with your sax in its case, or you're going to rehearsal or whatever? Are they asking you, what are you doing that for? Or do they praise you? How does it work?
In middle school, it was a little weird for them. They didn't really understand it, which is, I get it. But I mean, now that I'm in high school and I go to an art school, I'm surrounded by people who are just as serious about the music as I am and just as serious about art in general. So I don't really encounter it much anymore. But I mean, I do get a few like stares here and there because I'm also really small and I look like a 12-year-old. So people already are just like, what is that? Like people think that the instrument is too big for me, or that I shouldn't be playing it sometimes. But you know, it's interesting no matter where I go.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Dr. Dyas, tell us now what about the program on the 19th. Give us some details about that, and who can come, and or how they can see it, or how they can even support it.
Well, the actual physical audience there is an invited audience. It's principals and administrators and teachers and the U.S. Department of the powers that be at the U.S. Department of Education, and also invited students. But everyone can watch it streamed live. And the best place to watch it is just right on the Herbie Hancock Institute's website, which is just hancockinstitute.org. And it's at it starts at 1 o'clock this Tuesday, April 19th. And we hope everyone tunes in and watches. We'll also be doing as besides performing with Herbie, we'll also be doing a "What is Jazz" demonstration where we break down what makes jazz jazz.
Wow. And I know early before we went live, you told us about the transition from the Thelonious Monk Institute to the Herbie Hancock Institute. And so you said the name changed 2 years ago, but Herbie Hancock has been out here doing this work for, I guess, his entire career. And so we're really glad for people who've been following that. You know, maybe he's come lately, but it was good to know that we're really talking about a similar or the same program.
It's the same program. The name was changed to honor Herbie Hancock, who is not only, as everyone knows, a jazz legend, but a true humanitarian. I mean, he is the International Goodwill Ambassador for UNESCO, which is one of the most important arms of the United Nations, where Herbie believes that jazz should be more about than just music. In other words, jazz represents tolerance and perseverance and getting along. Because in jazz, as I was saying before, it doesn't matter how old you are, where you come from, your gender, your background, your ethnicity, everybody comes together to speak this language of jazz for the greater good.
I got to ask you too, what brought you to jazz?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What brought you to jazz, to the world of jazz? Are you a musician or?
This is what happened with me. I started out as a rock and roll guitar player. In fact, I was like the hottest guitar player in my high school. And I was never going to go to college because I got into a rock band, which right after high school, and I was touring all over the country. And a couple of the guys, the bass player and the piano player, they were into jazz. They were listening to jazz. And I really respected these guys because they were older and wiser. I mean, one was 19 and the other one was 20. Oh, wow. And I went, wow, these guys are into jazz. So we went to a jam session on one of our days off. And I was like the hot guitar player in the band, but we go to the jam session on the Sunday in between, and they're playing and improvising. And I fell on my face because I couldn't improvise. I was playing just like how I would play it every night off the record. And so I said, I need to learn about jazz. I want to do what they did. And then not too long after that, they played for me Herbie Hancock's Chameleon, which we'll be playing, by the way, on Tuesday. And I said, Chameleon. I listened to it and I went, wow, this is so great. It's so funky. It's so hip. What is this? And they said, that's jazz. I said, I got to get me into this.
Well, you know, there's a story. I knew there was a story back there. That's why I thought I would ask. And Ebban, my question for you is, with all the songs that you're having to rehearse or to practice for, which one you think is really going to knock folks out on Tuesday? What do we have to listen out for? Where we're going to see you?
I am definitely looking forward to Drifting. I'm excited about that one. I really like playing that, and it's either Drifting or Cantaloupe Island for me, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to be watching. I want to thank both of you all for joining us, for sharing this program with us. If there are young people out there, Dr. Dyas, who really want to know about the Institute, who want to figure out how they can be a part of it? Would they go to the website as well? Are there opportunities?
Absolutely. HancockInstitute.org. And I also want to say that besides Herbie Hancock on Tuesday, we also have the great Sean Jones as a guest artist. Sean Jones is one of the top trumpet players in the world. He's also the director of jazz studies at Peabody Conservatory right there in Baltimore, and he'll be with us as well. And everyone can watch right on our website, streamed live, Tuesday, April 19th, 1 p.m., HancockInstitute.org.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. Enjoyed talking to both of you all and look forward to tuning in on Tuesday.
And Ebban, I'll see you Monday. I'm flying to D.C. Ebban, I'll see you Monday for rehearsal, and again Tuesday with the great Herbie Hancock and Sean Jones.
Yeah, see you
All
soon.
right. Okay, doke. You all have a great day. Thank you. Good luck to you, Ebban.